but upon integration. And people, we began to become introduced to all these selfish ideas. Next thing you know, and of course, the Caucasian people putting us in jails. Next thing you know, we become whores and hood rats and sagging pants and all this other madness that you see today. Integration did this to us because we integrated into a filthy society and did not know it. On the outside, when we saw these Caucasian people, we thought they were godlike. But now that we are on the inside and now we see how they truly live, Caucasian people live a nasty, foul, vile, nasty, disgusting lifestyle. Materialistic, vulgar, filled with pedophilia and rape, greed and arrogancy. And now you see that in us. But prior to integration, you didn't see a lot of that coming out of black people. Because black folks had pride. We had some type of what religion calls morality. And now you have this sick love for your massa. What they mean is, why don't you black folks stop complaining about the evil we done to you? We're never going to treat you right, so why don't you just shut up and move on? And that's exactly what we need to do. And teach our babies to be careful and watch out for these racists. They smile in your face and they stab you in the back. Watch out, they are tricksters. So yes, we need to pull ourselves up from our own bootstraps and separate from you and tell our children about you, your evil, your wickedness, yesterday and today. Those who don't know their history are bound to repeat it, so we need to tell our babies. That's why we suffer in the condition that we live in right now, because we have trusted our enemies. In fact, we have helped them destroy our communities, because destroy us as a people during this period of time. And the Uncle Ruckus and the Uncle Tom and Sambo, the dark Europeans, they help you destroy us. But I ain't like you. When I talk about people, when I talk about our people, I do not advocate ill behaviors. But I know the reason why we are in the condition that we're in. And you can't talk because clearly you don't know. Many of us proud to be Americans, unless you was lucky to have parents that taught you different. This is a mental illness. We've had this mental illness for 400 years. It's still going on today. And these mentally ill people teach their children this mental illness. This mental illness of dark Europeanism, Uncle Ruckerism, Uncle Thomaism, Judaism. Well, this is a different type of Judaism. They can't help it. This has been going on for generations upon generations. So when I label a person a dark European, call them an Uncle Tom, and we know what we mean when we say Uncle Tom, and Uncle Ruckus, a sellout, a Judas, a guard dog for racists, then there's a need to be sure when we make such an allegation or accusation. I call them the racist pink people's guard dog. For these people with this mentality, you can't say nothing about Caucasian people, and it makes them upset. These people will quickly come to their defense.
Roll this around in your head if you would, please. white people are evil and war is peace. Now, think about this. A man who has not walked in another's shoes is limited in their understanding, though this does not mean they are absent in discernment and empathy. Well, it has come to my mind that I need to make yet another addition to the Fundie Games. Think of this as a supplement to an already existing supplement. Hello, YouTube. I wanted to share time with you today and broach a former claim that is bound to reappear. This will be an addition into the Get Real series, baby, where I do not take responsibility for your reaction to my commentary. This is a place where no self-censoring is allowed. Think of it as hallowed ground for those who wish to truly employ free speech. You are welcome to leave your respectfully presented dissent, either in video form or in the comment section. And I am allowed to offend you, but not from a state of malice or imprudence. But you are also allowed to change the channel at any time. Now, I do not want to spend a long time on this topic, so I will be as quick as I can, but I may need to take a long time in order to be quick. Only once. The ones who have deemed themselves radical or revolutionaries will always be at odds with those who meaningfully oppose their worldview. Intellectual superiority may be esteemed, but I value more the actions of man. That is a man who is of action. I prefer compassion over confrontation and benevolence over belligerence, but I am not in need to discuss or justify my understanding of right and wrong, though I often check my self-tapes for falsity that may linger. I am not afraid of conflict, nor do I invite it to my door. The main problem I have experienced during my online conversations are engagements with those who lack character. They may have obtained other qualities I admire, but suffering like most of us do from our own hand. With this said, let's shift gears. Those who make claims of me being a guard dog for whites are simply devoid of intelligence or good hearing. They have reduced me to a game piece. Just think of that, and taking the opportunity to construct said game, and then have the audacity to demand of me that I play by those rules. Well, really? And I'm not going to play. Sorry, no time for this, or energy will I give you. Your fraud has provided yet another opportunity to explore ideas, observations, and make attempt to judge wisely via subjective roads and intermingle them with inference and rational thought. Yet this action does provide an opportunity for me to address two common issues and activities that satellite them. This does not pertain to the racially bigoted, racist, or calloused whites that are unaware, because it suits them to be unaware. No. This is me addressing whites that do not fall in this category and somehow think they are exempt from certain folly. This is also for any non-whites who have a fundamental lack of relevant information or insight regarding my observations. Though I'm sure that they do if they have watched my videos, but they like to pretend as if they do not. That's okay. I will accommodate that because then you accommodate this. So, I do not only want to be clear, but to ward off those by means of pointing to this video and then actively ignoring them, ward them off by giving them information. See, I'm not going to allow them to utilize me as an engine for their toxic, abstracted state of absorption. Now, my prolonged, intense look is as follows. 1. As a collective, whites are too busy burdening blacks. Yes, they are. Busybodies they are. Some of them, that is. Some are just wired wrong and hate anyone outside of themselves. I mean, we have those in other groups as well, but let's stick with whites, okay? I don't want you to think that I have an issue with calling it as I truly see it. Some of them use, allow, or ignore others who employ the old tools of ridicule, contempt, and discrimination. They are ashamed, some of them, of the actions of their ancestors, or rejoice and continue to support heinous activities, heinous attitudes they secretly hold dear. Then there are those whose ancestors had no investment in slavery, and yet they have intense dislike for blacks for another reason. Many reasons, some very, very personal. However, this may be due to continuously being mislabeled and other character flaws that they have. Some then reduce themselves to these titles by their willful actions. How sick is that? The justification is this: if I am going to be blamed for it anyway, who cares? Well, finally, there are the ones, and this is true of all groups, but let's stick with whites, who suffer from a person of a different culture or ethnicity. They suffer from their hand. They cannot separate their independent experience from the whole, and they select the easy path of group hate. This may be intensified with every news report that pricks old wounds, personally or nationally. 2. I see an ever-increasing indifference of white Americans towards economic injustices and violence. Originally, this was due to realities primarily hitting people of color. So, for a long period, they, meaning whites, could afford a state of ambivalence. Unfortunately for them, those who look like them, who are more concerned with matters of family bloodlines and certain class distinctions, are pushing the white middle class and poor whites into the position most commonly occupied by people of color, with blacks, of course, still being the main whipping boy. Now, these whites refuse to see the errors of their ways. They continue to whine despite the fact that they have no solid foundation to stand on. Yet, every day you find members of this group who are indifferent to these realities when it mostly affected blacks, Native Americans, and Mexicans. Now, it is common to hear them bitch about mass shootings, terrorism, house meltdowns, and various financial crises. Also, we see an ever-increasing presence of empty words regarding the takers versus the makers. This is done to alleviate stress and promote enjoyment via dehumanizing tactics. Whites who are willing to attack the core of their fellow humans for political gain and social status are just as empty of a shell compared to those who will indiscriminately harm others from other groups. This action is a type of murder. Make no mistake about it. These whites forget that life can change on a dime and that it is possible that they could be brought to a position where they need assistance. It matters not if this assistance comes in a form of food stamps, maybe kind words, constructive criticism, or health care. Economic injustice and turmoil from earth changes can happen to any of us. Any of us. Yet, when white men, generally speaking, experience this fate, they are not dysfunctional or maintaining wrong values. No, they save that for other people. Hypocrites they are. Hypocrites. This is revealing of America and its popular cultural messages, which daily reinforces that meritocracy is king. This fuels the ignorant and allows those who have not studied the negative impact of TV and other types of delivery systems like the internet on the psyche to invest in self-hate and doubt. But hey, do not mind me. My words are guarding white folks, right? Seriously, though, while we are on the subject of meritocracy and how certain whites like to use that in order to make other non-whites look non-productive or bum-like and pronounce them as being lazy or unworthy of the American privileges that they have, well, I am not going to pretend that I wish to invest the time in order to generate the rigor and precision needed to prove, not solely ruminate, that the system has been rigged for quite some time. I'm not going to take out the time and invest myself in that way. Even if I did, I am certain some whites who claim to be disfranchised or the target of Zionist efforts would merely disregard my work to feed their deceptions created by illusionary ideas. For those of us who can see, use common sense, studied the works of certain authors like Chomsky, Robert K. Miller Jr., Peter Calero, and David Wallace Adams, to name a few, understand that for many citizens, the notion of the American dream is currently, how do I put it, a laughable and deplorable banality believed most by those who have been hypnotized by the idea of the free market, or the win-win situation delivered by the mere action of trade versus the negative sum game, which also exists. So, these naive idealists push on. Rarely are they willing to be forthright for fear of ridicule of giving away the secrets of their brothers. This is especially true of those who suffer immense consternation over being the defender of this myth. Whites of this making, normally those who feverishly masturbate over the dreams of Rothbard, etc., ignore various social factors and class topics. Here are a couple for your consideration. 1. The powerful impact on the national narrative when dumb luck, surely in very rare occurrence, but dumb luck that allows a poor working or middle class person to advance to the financial success of a Buffett or Gates. And 2, the works of those that demonstrates that the more integrity a person possesses, the less likely they have of ascending the economic ladder and breaking the social class barrier. This is no longer the days of Zig Ziglar. We do not have the option in today's marketplace among the sharks to bring home this reality like we used to, if we really ever did. That is up for debate as well. But yet, whites love to jump on this bandwagon and regurgitate all of this bullshit that they hear from Fox News and other people that feed the world various memes to keep those of color in their place. It is not about believing if one group of people could have done anything that could lead to the destruction of another group of people. This happens all the time. We know this is possible, and we do see it happen throughout the history of mankind. We can look at the American Indians, if we want something fairly recent, as proof of this. We can see the fast decline of blacks and the machine which was created by whites, and personal contributions which came from blacks that cemented this horror that we see today. Historically, we can rightfully, I think that's the correct word, rightfully address the investment the northern part of the United States made, long before the South did, regarding the infamous discriminatory black codes. Just like we can acknowledge that Democrats are as uniquely foul as Republicans. I will admit, I see more class indoctrination and racism from conservatives or members of the right. Don't think that I am not as perturbed with liberal whites, some of them, or members of the left who would never live in a non-white or a majority non-white neighborhood. without being overly sensitive, we can make valid judgments. That the white media does take joy, great joy, in belittling blacks collectively, via celebrities for one. Just take a look at OJ, Rick Ross, Wendy Williams, Chris Brown, Dennis Rodman, or even the likes of mouthpieces like Melissa Harris Perry, though that's a special brand of belittling. If we are going to be true to ourselves or other members of humanity, we cannot afford not to shame the devil by telling the truth. This enemy of mankind has to be confronted by each of us who actually understand the need to do so. It does require conformity to actuality and understanding when emotions can get in the way, and the proper use of empathy is required, along with observational skills and the courage to put whatever knowledge gathered by those observations into play. Hey, don't worry, you will be stigmatized, expelled, drummed out, booted out, shut out, and ignored by many. For they don't want to know the truth. You think Americans want to know the truth? Do you think black people want to know the truth about black people? And that white people want to know the truth about them? And Mexicans, do you think people in your group are courageous enough to really understand their part in all of this? The same goes for Native Americans and Indians and Asians. This attempt to win in the court of approval by either using emotive language, empty claims, and poor historical context has to stop. Time management and priority of values are amazingly important during our lifetime. Yet we squander our energy over conversations like this. So we battle on. Does it benefit us to aimlessly bicker and lose ground in other areas that need our attention? The same ones that complain about the superficial division are some of the same ones taking cover using it. The world is much more demanding than 10 years ago, much more demanding than 50 years ago. Significant changes are almost impossible to come by if we are looking outside of ourselves. We have to be wise in selecting our battles while always not allowing ourselves to sugarcoat things. We don't need to sugarcoat them or become hardened as a result of our understanding from not sugarcoating them. Call me guard dog, Sambo, or whatever you select. I will keep doing what I know to be right. You will have no effect upon my movement. I do not need an audience to do so. That is, to do the right thing. Nor do I need the applause of anybody who may be watching this video. What I need is the understanding of myself that what I do in my day-to-day world contributes a little bit more to the restoration of sanity to a very insane place. One thing my people taught me was this. Oh, I bet you thought that I was talking about humanity. No, I am addressing black people specifically here. You can be blessed with the musical genius of Jimi Hendrix or Duke Ellington, and they will definitely ignore it until it becomes fashionable not to. The same example can be seen in other areas of endeavor. So, in knowing this, why would I care what many of these black yahoos claim on YouTube? Most are full of hot air and have not given of themselves in consistent, meaningful ways and without want of being compensated. Thank you for listening.